Fox News and Laura Ingraham are going to go to work here to defend billionaires from Harry Reid calling them out.
This is the typical problem that Democrats run into. They start demonizing individual citizens from the well of the Senate, which I haven't seen before. A sitting senator take after two men who have done an enormous amount for the free market, who are they are merely expressing their views in the political system. You know, this is what George Soros does.
Sure.
This is what Steven Spielberg does. This is what David Geffen does. They all spend an enormous amount of money in politics. They're not demonized, but these two individuals are demonized in the well of the Senate by a man who has his own connections to a subsidiary of the Koch brothers. Right. It is Harry Reid should be called out on this by every Republican and everyone of good conscience in the U.S. Senate. I find what he's doing on this to be, frankly, dangerous. It's disturbing, but it's typical Harry. He doesn't have a record to talk about, so he demeans and tries to divide by going after two men who have not violated laws, who are businessmen trying to actually create opportunities for people in this country. I find it disgusting.
You know, I'm serious when I say that every day when I do my job, I'm surprised. Fox News always finds a way to surprise me because they're arguing for a position here that only, 20% of Americans at most agree with, more likely 10%. They're arguing, like, they're, viciously defending billionaires. Like, no, don't attack these billionaires. We want them to buy our political system. Well, like I just said, 80% of the American people, that's a majority of Democrats, a majority of independents, and a majority of Republicans, say, no, we need campaign finance reform. We can't have corporations and rich people owning our politicians like this. I always say it's not a partisan issue because it's not a partisan issue, I don't want the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson and Foster Friess owning our political system and getting whatever legislation they want, any more than some guy in Alabama or Kentucky, they don't want George Soros buying our politicians and getting whatever he wants. This crosses all partisan lines. But Fox News, of course, in their endless idiocy, has to go to bat for the establishment. They're arguing for an oligarchy. They're arguing for a kleptocracy or a plutocracy. They want government of, by, and for the rich. To be that arrogant in defending people who have actually just tried to buy our democracy, That's not just like conjecture, that's not hyperbole either. We're talking about people here who give money to the Republicans and then tell them, don't you dare, vote to raise the minimum wage because then that would cut into our profits because then we'd have to pay our workers more. Don't do it. All right, well, then you're rigging democracy because, again, 80% of the American people want to raise the minimum wage. But when you buy the politicians and say, don't vote for it, you're rigging democracy. Or when they give money and then they get subsidies because they're in the oil business, so they get these tremendous subsidies. They give money, they get more tax cuts also. They give money and you deregulate. Another example is that they own a company that actually produces formaldehyde, for industrial use. Formaldehyde is a well-known carcinogen. It's a very dangerous chemical. Well, they lobby the politicians that then pass laws that then deregulate. And when you deregulate, the areas where their plants are, for example, they can pollute more. Their workers are at higher risk. They try to gut safety standards. This is all a problem, man. And for her to sit there and argue, what are you mad? You're just mad because Harry Reid called them out? I mean, they squeal and whine like piglets when a Democrat actually makes a strong argument. But that leads to the main point here. The Democrats are doing a good job by continuing to call out the Koch brothers. They absolutely are. Because then you put the Republicans on the defensive. Now, here's the truth about the right. They're fantastic at offense. They know how to hammer their point home. They know how to, really drive home something that's pure propaganda and false, to the point where some Americans just go, I guess it's true, they keep saying it. But they're terrible at defense, because you heard her. Nobody's convinced by that. What are you saying? Get the hands off the Koch brothers. I want them to own our politicians. I love billionaires. Sometimes they throw me a shekel and I go home and buy a loaf of bread. What argument are you making? But that is the argument that they're making. And then just to address one of the other silly things she says, I haven't seen this before. Politicians calling people out from the floor of Congress. Really? I only see that every single day. And you act like the Republicans are above that all? Are you? Oh my God, they do it more than anybody else on the planet. How many times have you heard the words George Soros from those people? Or Saul Alinsky? Somebody who, by the way, nobody knows who he is. It's just, in the right-wing bubble, that's like the main thing they think about. Oh my God, Saul Alinsky tactics. Everybody else is like, who the fuck is Saul Alinsky? He's a guy who sold like 3 books, and he was like an avowed communist or whatever, and they just act like everybody on the left like has meetings with Saul Alinsky or his group of people. And, Reverend Wright is another example. They always attacked Reverend Wright from the floor. I mean, come on, man. Laura, you can't be serious. And I don't know whether she believes this or not, because if she does believe this, God, she's such an idiot. And last thing, of course it makes sense to attack 2 guys who are, you know what the Koch brothers have been doing recently? They're running these anti-Obamacare ads. Like, first of all, it's already a law, you dipshits. Like, okay, you wanted to run the ads? You run them during the negotiating process and the compromising process when it's a bill and not a law. It's already a law. Your ads are fucking useless. But they're running the ads anyway, and they're just all-out lies. Just pure lies. They have people saying, my plan was canceled, and now I'm not going to get treatment for my cancer because of Obama. And then meanwhile, fact-checking groups came in, ripped it to shreds. They're like, actually, not only do you get coverage, you get better coverage, and it's cheaper. So they just find people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They put them on TV and they say it, and then the fact-checkers are like, I don't know how the fuck you put this on. This is the most ridiculous claim I've ever heard. And then now it's gotten to the point that they've been called out so many times for those ads that they just have the vaguest ads ever now, where it's just like, we don't like Obamacare. That's it. Because anytime they get specific, they have to make shit up. So, yeah, it does make sense to attack those people. And Laura Ingraham, if you want to continue to protect billionaires and protect the Koch brothers, be my guest, because that is a losing strategy all day long.